Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got something pretty special lined up. We have a 1990 Volkswagen Golf. It's a Mark II GTD. So this is 33 years old. This is actually older than me. It's in pretty bad shape. The paint is pretty heavily oxidized. The wheels are in pretty bad condition as well, and the interior isn't looking so hot either. So the aim and objective of this detail is to do a two-stage paint correction with some added protection and to tidy up the interior as well and see if we can do anything about the wheels. Believe it or not, this car is actually a daily driver. It's only done about 140,000 kilometres, so about 85,000 miles for those still on Imperial. So today I'm actually at a self-service car wash station because the part of France that I'm based in has a drought restriction, so we're not allowed to use pressure washers at home. So we're just starting off with a pre-rinse. I'm using Koch Chemi's Green Star all-purpose cleaner. Really decent, versatile cleaner. You can dial it either down or dial up, depending on how much cleaning you need to do. So we're just starting on the sort of tighter spots. Just agitating everything with a brush to loosen everything up. And then we will use the same APC on the bodywork. Now, normally I'd be worried about this kind of thing drying in the sun. It's not something I like to do usually, but to be honest, this car is going to get machine polish. It's going to be rinsed very well anyway, so I'm not really too fussed. And for the wheels, I'm using CarPro's Iron X. This is a fallout remover, so it should dissolve any bonded metal contamination on the wheels. Then we can just scrub it and rinse it off. And I'm using again that Green Star from Koch Chemi on the tyre walls. Now, starting off with the pre-rinse, I'm also using the built-in pre-rinse at the car wash, just to give a bit of extra kick for our pre-rinse. Normally, I would advise not using something like this if you're going to do this yourself, because these pre-rinse solutions tend to be very acidic and can be quite harmful to your paint if you don't properly rinse them off. So I would always suggest taking your own pre-cleaner with you if you need to use one of these self-service stations. But in this case, as I say, the paint is so beaten up it's not really a concern. So it goes without saying as well, but for those of you in the back who don't know, never use the brush at these self-service stations. They never get cleaned, they're full of grit, they will mar your paintwork. So you have been warned. So moving on, we're doing another contact wash, but this time I'm using a chemical called Optimum No Rinse. This is like a rinseless wash formula that's super useful if you have got water restrictions in your area, because you can just wipe this on and wipe it off. It doesn't require any rinsing to clean. So it's really good, it's really useful, especially in the summertime. So I'm just going to put that over the whole car and literally just wipe it off. Yeah, no water is required. So moving on to the chemical decontamination phase, I'm coming in with a tar and glue remover here, because we've got quite a few tar spots, both on the paintwork and on the lower plastic as well. So just going to spray that on, let it do its thing, and then after about 30 seconds or so, just going to wipe it off with a soft microfiber cloth. Now, normally in any chemical decontamination phase before a machine polish, I would always use an iron fallout remover as well. But given the age of the car and therefore the age of the paintwork, using such a potent product I didn't really think was a good idea, so I decided not to in this case. So just in case you're wondering what that sound was, I live near a military base, so yeah, get flights over the house all the time. It's really fun. So now the chemical decon is done, we're moving on to mechanical decontamination. Just feeling the paintwork here, I can tell that it's really rough. It's full of bonded contaminants that can't be removed during a wash process. So what I'm using is a synthetic clay bar. This one is from Carbon Collective. It's called their Exfoli block. This does the same job as like traditional clay, but it's just in a different format really. You do have to work it a bit more than a traditional bar, but you get you can get about 50 washes out of it, so it's quite economical. They're not super expensive, and if you drop it, you can just rinse it off and carry on. Whereas if you drop a clay bar, you have to throw it away and get some new clay. This is a really important step to do before you machine polish, otherwise if you don't get that bonded contamination out, you'll end up sort of mashing it into the paint or the clear coat with your polishing pad, and you won't get the results that you want. So starting on a little test spot to see where we'll need to go with the rest of the paintwork, I started on pretty much the worst panel. This one was super faded. Just to see how the paint responds to the pad and compound we've selected. So I've decided to go for a medium compound, nothing too rough and too abrasive that will take off too much paint, because we're dealing with single stage paint here. So I've gone with something not too abrasive, but something good enough to cut through that top layer of oxidised faded paint. And I've also gone with a medium cut pad. The compound I've used is from Auto Finesse. It's called Auto Finesse 1. I think it's supposed to be their one stage compound and polish, but I'm just using it for compounding here because it's not too abrasive. So after cleaning the panel off with some isopropyl alcohol, you can see that it's still a bit chalky. It's not really the finish that we want. So I did another pass with the same combination, but I increased my work time and I increased my passes. That is to say, up and down. And it made it a little bit better, but it still wasn't great. So I decided to use a bit of a heavier cut pad. Again, nothing too abrasive, but just a small step up. And that seemed to be a really good combo. So I decided that was what we were going to use for the rest of the paintwork. Right, I'm going to tape up where is necessary, then I'm going to crack on with some polishing and leave you to it with some tunes, so enjoy. So as you can see, the side-by-side comparison is 1,000 times better. It's really night and day. I'm really happy with this kind of finish, so that's what we're going to do for the rest of the car. As you can see, the paintwork isn't perfect. There are still quite a few defects present in the polished side, but as I say, this is more about preservation as opposed to complete perfection. We could have wet sanded it, but there's always a risk of maybe burning through the paint, taking off too much paint, and at this stage of its life, it's not really necessary, in my opinion, to have perfect paint. It's more of a question of just enhancing that gloss. That's the main objective here, so yeah, we're just going to crack on with the rest.
Pas de soleil, 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 pas de soleil.
So the technique you can see me using here, it's something I was using pretty much across the whole vehicle. It's something called the mow down technique. Larry from Ammo NYC is a big advocate of this. Check out his channel. That guy is literally a wizard when it comes to machine polishing and paint correction. Basically using a lot of compound and moving the polisher quite quickly just to chew up as much of that oxidation as possible, because your pad's going to fill up with dead paint anyway, and then sort of going in afterwards with a second pass to really tidy it up and really get that really nice gloss. So I'm coming back in with a rotary after I've used the dual action polisher just to chew up that oxidation, and then using the rotary to really sort of bring out the rest of the paintwork. So with the compounding complete, we're now going on to the second phase, the polishing phase. So here I'm working a much bigger area using a finishing pad and coupling that with Sonak's Perfect Finish. First time I've used Sonak's product actually. I was really impressed. Just the whole user experience was really lovely. You can tell it's a really premium, really good product. So this will just tidy up any of the holograms, any of the polishing marks that have been left behind, and should leave us with as good a finish as we can hope to expect. So here I'm just using some isopropyl alcohol just to strip any remaining polishing residue that might be left on the paintwork, because we are about to come in with some protection. So that'll leave the surface perfect for the protection to go onto. We are using a Soft 99's Fuso coat. Really important that this paint now has some protection because it's been sort of exfoliated and it's now exposed to the sun again. So this will help slow that oxidation process and protect it from UV damage. So anyone in the detailing game knows how good of a wax Fuso coat is, but for those of you that perhaps don't know, this is a paste wax that can last up to 12 months, so it's got super long durability, super sheeting and beading, protection from the rain and the elements. It's just, I cannot overstate how good of a product this is. So with the exterior all completed and boxed off, it's time to move on to the interior. It's not in great condition, but I think we're all guilty of interiors running away from us sometimes. We forget to clean them and it just builds up, and you know it gets into a bit of a state, but I think we've all been there. Also, it doesn't help the fact that these owners have dogs. Fur never helps, it gets stuck into the carpets and it makes everything look worse than it really is. So mostly it's just going to be vacuuming, to be honest, the big job on the interior. So we're going to remove as many personal items as we can, get all the mats out and just go to town basically.
You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.
So just removing some rubbish here and later some personal effects, some personal items. I'm using a respirator purely for my own protection because I'm going to be using some compressed air, and it can just blow things into the atmosphere, and you can breathe these things in and you might get a cold or it might make you unwell. So that's really just for my own personal protection, really. It's always good practice to use one if you're using compressed air, and it's something I do in most interior details if I have to use compressed air.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby. So I stand up and speak just my mind. Oh. You're chilling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. By my appetite, don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 oh,
Yeah.
So here I'm using a magic eraser just to get some really hard to shift gunk off this gear knob. These are really effective tools, but you've got to know when to use them because they are super abrasive and they will remove lacquers, protective coatings and that sort of thing, so just use them with caution. So this is the same air compressor tool that I've used on the rest of the interior, but this is now with the chemical tank attached. I'm using Polestar from Kochchemi, it's an upholstery cleaner, and it sort of goes through the air compressor and shoots the liquid into the fabric, so it removes the need for agitation. These seats were quite woolly, and I thought if I agitated them they might go a bit too fluffy, so it was better to use just the air compressor and the extra tool at this point. So time to address the interior plastics, of which there are many in this vehicle. Using 303 aerospace protectant. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but it's such a good dressing. It's non-greasy, lasts for a really long time. It's actually a dressing designed for exterior use on boat plastics, so it gives really good UV protection as well. Here we're just tidying up the wheels with a bit of spray paint, nothing too fancy. And the hubcaps as well. And there we have it, folks. Here are some before and afters. This was a big challenge for sure, but it was so satisfying to see the end result. To breathe a bit of life back into an old car as well, give it a few more years on the road. And maybe turn a few heads as well, because this is quite a rare car nowadays. I'm a massive VW fan as is. I've had loads of their things over the years, cars, vans, a lot. So for me this was a particularly fun project to do. It's by no means perfect, but I think I've done a really good job on it. We could do more, but you can always do more in detailing. It's a question of knowing when is enough. And also working within customers' budgets and time constraints and that sort of thing. So if you've gotten this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe, and possibly share as well if you've got the time. Thanks so much, guys. See you in the next one. Cheers.